Hello, my name's Chris Allen. This is my main news. I'm down at Lumpini's gym in Crawley, the Muay Thai gym, and I was lucky enough to bump into Jarvis, the Intense Grey, who'll be fighting at Fusion 30 next June. Jarvis, I can see you've had a really tough session just now, so I appreciate you stopping. How you doing?
No, I'm fine, thank you, man. Thanks for coming. It's appreciated.
No, so I appreciate you taking the time. I was lucky enough now to have a sit through one of your sessions. Your training partner, who was taking some pretty hard shots from you with pads, to be fair. I saw him rubbing himself down. So that's what you're doing with pads, but you show your power. So where do you do most of your training then? Because I can see you you live about an hour and a half away from here. So you do a bit of training around the country. Where in specific do you do your groundwork, your stand-up, etc.?
That's striking is all down here at Lumpini, Crawley Martial Arts. And all my groundwork, all the grappling is at Nova Forza with Ricardo De Silva in Epsom. Do strength and conditioning in a boxing gym called Fitzroy Lodge with a guy called Darren. So we do our strength and conditioning there, and that's it. Other than that, I just hit the gym, David Lloyd's, and do swimming, just take over when I'm not booked in for a session or got a group session, you know what I mean?
That's it, and I can see you've moved to pro now, so you 1-0 in pro. Yep. Again, not even seeing a second round as usual with yourself. So what made you decide to make that move up to pro?
It's the right move, I was 8-2 as an amateur. The fights was ending quickly, so it's about time, step up a class, test myself. Obviously, it didn't happen in the first pro debut, but as we progress further into the career, we'll get there. And I think it's the time. It's now or never.
No, definitely. And I say, MMA is the fastest growing sport in the UK at the moment. You see lots of fighters getting pulled up onto big organisations as well now. With, I say, some people who haven't even, their pro debut are fighting in places like Bellator and stuff like that. So is that something, I know you're only starting off pro now, but watching your amateur fights, you wouldn't think you're amateur. You're knocking people out left, right and centre, finishing fights all the time. So what's next for you? You've got your fight coming up soon. What's your plan after that when you win that fight?
Yeah, well, I'm not in no rush. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I'm just gonna get this next fight out of the way, talk to my coaches, see what they've got ahead of me. I'm not in no rush to get on the big stage. Of course I want to get there, but I don't want to go on there and get swallowed and thrown out, do you know what I mean? And that happens to a lot of people. I'm still learning. I'm still a student in this game, so no rush. When Bellator are ready for me or the bigger shows are ready for me, I'm sure they'll come.
Yeah, and that's no disrespect to the shows you're fighting on now. There's some good fighters in these small organisations that are going unnoticed, and I think you're a prime example of that sort of thing as well. You see a lot of people turning pro at 16 years old now, so it just shows the fastest growing sport here. So you've mainly grown up through Fusion fighting, haven't you, through your amateur and pro career? Did you fight for any organisations before joining Fusion?
Fought on Fury twice. Lost both fights on Fury, but that's me coming in as a street fighter. No grappling experience, no nothing, just little tear-ups on the back streets, and me going in there thinking I know it all, I can fight everyone. And in all fairness, my first fight on Fury, I kind of got stitched up, they threw me in with pro gloves, the guy I was fighting, he had tons of experience, but again it was a learning curve, because I took that loss and it made me hungrier. I lost again, but it made me hungry again, and here I am today, causing mayhem.
Oh, and definitely causing mayhem. Like, if anyone hasn't seen Jarvis compete before, I recommend you YouTube him straight away. You'll get through all his videos in about 10 minutes, about 5 minutes, because they're all first round knockout. So you can see predominantly a lot of your fights. I've seen your ground game while I've been here. You're rolling around. You've got good skills on the ground as well, especially training with Nova Force, Ricardo, all them guys up there as well. But we do see a lot of that in your game. But recently, we are seeing you going in there, and we're not even seeing 20 seconds.
Yeah, I know. That's probably, it's down to the caliber of opponent. Probably, I won't lie to you. If someone puts me in that predicament where I have to, pace myself, then I'll adjust to the fight. But if he's there to be killed and he's showing weakness, I'm a predator, and I'm gonna eat him up, as quick as possible. I'm not getting paid no big bucks, so I'm not there for overtime. There to finish the job and watch the rest of the show. That's it.
Well, I said, if you were doing that in some of these big organisations, I think the 50k bonus would be coming your way quite a lot. So you think your last two amateur fights lasted in total of about 35 seconds? Is that right?
Yeah.
And that's when you won the title, right?
I just seem to overwhelm them, really. Do you know what I mean? It's just all too overwhelming, and before you know it, the referee just stops it.
Do you find it's your aggression coming out? You think they don't expect you to come running forward straight into the middle of the cage as you tend to do?
Yeah, that's it, as I tend to do, you know. Like, I know I'm better than that. I can pace myself, you know. Like, how I spar is different. It's much different to how I perform in the cage, you know. So it's just about adapting that style outside of the cage into the cage, and we're getting there. Yeah.
So for one thing I'd like to ask everyone, I find the most interesting thing about you guys is where did it all start? What actually thought you like? Because I'm a sim racer yourself, okay? Well, you're still younger than me. Yeah. MMA wasn't exactly something you went and did when we were younger. Sort of thing. There wasn't MMA. It was just boxing or judo. So what's your background? What started you in combat sports?
Well, I first started boxing at the age of, say, about 8. A good gym in Lambeth where I grew up, called Fitzroy Lodge, and obviously I moved from Lambeth towards Croydon, and my mum wasn't happy about the distance I had to travel, you know, so far, and being a protector.
At 8 years old?
No, sorry, I moved. I done it from 8 till 14, yeah, and then I moved after that, and she just didn't want me traveling, you know, and then a couple years later I was just in a gym doing weights. And then I met a professional fighter at the time called Scott Jensen, and he's the one that introduced me to the MMA. We done some pads together, and he was like, you know what, you got some potential, man. And I was getting into like doing the wrong things, like wrong crowd and things like that. So it was almost a distraction away from what I was doing. So I give Scott thanks, and I always give him thanks. You know, he put me on this path, and I love it. No turning back since then.
No, so yeah, so you feel like you. Well, as you say, you're on the street, learned most of your stuff, you know, growing up on the street, stuff like that, which is common nowadays, you know. It's good that you got out of that, and with this gentleman you're mentioning, he pulled you away from that, and it really made you. So you really wanted to focus life on MMA after that, yeah?
That's exactly it, yeah. Because I didn't do the best in school, you know what I mean. And a lot of things people don't do is they don't do what they're good at. You know, I want to focus what I'm good at. You know, it was football. That age is gone. I'm a very good fighter, so I feel I'm in my prime right now, you know, just keep it moving, keep the train moving, so, yeah.
So how did you find the transition from boxing and stuff going into MMA, where you started learning some more kicks and some wrestling and things like that?
It did come quite easy, I'm not going to lie to you, you know, because I'm just quite athletic all round, you know what I mean? Whether it's rounders, anything, I'm just good at sports. Not trying to big myself up, but... it started evolving. I first started doing the striking, other than with Scott, down at Keddles. So I was doing it with a guy called Paul Dewberry at the time. Yep. And he got me the fundamentals, you know, and the rest is history, man. I'm here today. Yeah.
So you trained at Keddles before, you know, you got some big names, like you got multiple world champion Bernice Aldis, female down there. You've got Alan Keddle, the owner.
Jimmy's down there.
Jimmy Manuel down there.
Back then there was Palu Aditola. There was Kim Farid. There was loads of good guys at the time when I was down there. Yeah, there was loads of good guys.
And is it surname Crawford? Does that ring a bell?
Rory.
That's it.
Yeah, Rory. He was down there as well. He's still down there. Rory's solid guy as well, man. Good hands. Very good striker. Very good striker. He is.
So you sort of went from it sounds like you went from boxing to like a Muay Thai gym sort of thing afterwards. So did you not think I'm just going to pursue a Muay Thai career, or you wanted to mix it all up?
Yeah, I fell in love with the MMA side of things. I like to get my hands on someone, you know. If it's not safe with the stand up, at least we can tussle on the floor, and you know I can grind it out, kind of Khabib style. But I prefer the MMA to boxing, if I'm honest. I've had a few boxing fights as well, won some, lost some, but I prefer MMA, definitely.
So without giving too much away, we all know you're dominant on the feet, okay? But what do you prefer to do? I know you prefer to go in and knock people out, it's great, but what more have you got to show us? Because we're not seeing it. We're not seeing it at the moment, you know.
I don't have a preference, if I'm honest. You know, I love striking, and I like grappling as well. You know, my grappling is decent. Is still plenty room for improvement. But my strong point I would say is my striking. Yeah.
Well, I saw a fight. I think it was one of your first fights of Fusion. It was against Evan J. I forgot his name. The Polish, was it Polish gentleman? Evan Jesus Invictus or something?
Yeah, Eugenus.
Sorry, mate, if you're watching, by the way, I'm really sorry about that. Eugenus, yeah. So that fight, we saw more of your ground game.
Yeah. Well, that's me. Basically, I'd only been at Nova for like maybe 6 months prior to that, so I wasn't really had a lot of experience in the grappling. that guy, I think he was more of a grappler at the time, and no, I went through it. I went through it with the little experience I had. I'm much better than I was then with the grappling. But Eugenus, he was a tough opponent, man. Very, very tough.
And he was a big guy. He usually fights a weight class heavier, doesn't he?
He was a lump, and he was heavy, man. Thick thighs, thick top half, thick neck, everything.
Yeah, but as you can see, like, you were both on the ground. You showed your submission defense straight away, ground defense. You basically, you two were just outdoing each other. One was reversing, the other would reverse, the other reverse, and it just shows just the level you're getting at Nova Forza. Would you say? That's
it, man. There's good guys down there. The list goes on and on and on, from white belts to black belts. You know, we've got it all down at Nova Forza. There's guys that are not even there competing in MMA. They just surely grapple, and they're beasts.
Yeah, I've met a couple of guys. I actually met the owner, Ricardo's son, one time. I thought he was a lot older than he was. He's a big boy as well. So they've definitely got some good fighters coming out there. So you got the right people around you, haven't you? That's it. So you got your next fight coming up in June. Know anything about your opponent?
Not too much. I just know he's from up north. He's tall, rangy. Don't think he's got much floor game. Don't really know too much about him, but yeah, I'm just focused on myself and what I need to improve from my last fight, you know. So that's it, really. Yeah.
And you were talking about caliber of fighters. Don't get me wrong. Anyone who's brave enough to get in that cage and crack on, doesn't matter who you are. Don't care what your record is. You're happy to get in there. Yeah. Is this guy a bit slightly high caliber of fight? Would you say like maybe one of your toughest tests going in today?
I don't think he'll be my toughest test. I'm yet to have met that right now. If anything, so far, the toughest fight I've had would probably be Eugenus. But I'm not too sure about this guy. I'm not underestimating him. You know, you just see what happens on the day. Yeah.
That's it, and that's the attitude you can see of a lot of your fights. I can probably imagine how this fight's going to go. You're going to go in there, straight to the middle of the cage, and well, that's what he's expecting.
That's what he's expecting.
So. That's it. So I'm not going to ask you what your game plan is, because that'd just be a stupid thing to. I hate when reporters ask that thing. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do in your next fight?
I'm just going to knock him out.
Thank you. That's the answer we want to hear. So it's why. So it's been over a year when this fight happens now for you. Do you mind talking about why you've been out for that time?
Yeah, you know what? It's just I've had some life issues to sort out. You know, things that have taken me off the focus of the sport. You know, that I needed to sort out. Weight issues, personal issues, but that's all been sorted out now, and I'm really focused. There's more than ever now, do you know what I mean? Because time ain't waiting for no one, you know, and I'm cracking on with age as well, so I'm really focused now, and everything, all the negatives and the distractions, that's all gone now, so it's a nice clear road.
So you felt like you didn't want to rush back into it, you got a clear head now, you know what you're doing?
That's it, yeah. I didn't want to, rush back into it and have distractions when fighting that could effectively, put a down on my performance, or hinder. It can spoil my career, So I just wanted to do the smart thing. No rush. I'm not rushing, Yeah.
So is this it for you now? This is it. MMA is it. Are you still doing a 9 to 5, or this is it now for you?
Nah, I was doing a little bit of retail work, maybe about 8 months ago, and then I started doing a bit of carpentry, but. It's just I'm sorting out a little personal business that I'm doing, like some cleaning business. So I'm just focusing on that, and as well as just the training. I can't do too many things, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
So if you can get yourself something on the side where you can do it in your own time as self-employed, you find yourself you have enough time to get your training done still.
That's it, yeah. Because I declared myself self-employed now, so I've got a lot more time to do the training and just up my game. Do you know what I mean? Got to make sacrifices. So
and we're all looking forward to seeing what else you can do, because as I said, most of the fights we see, which are the most entertaining ones we see, like you hear on the commentary, as soon as you step in the cage, the Fusion commentators going, here we go, everyone's like, wait for this one. As in, if you don't even sit down, they're saying, because you won't make it to your seat sort of thing. What must it feel like hearing like that when you watch your fights back from the commentators? They know before you get in there, this guy's going to be an animal, he's going to be a beast.
It is a good feeling. Maybe a little bit of pressure. Yeah. But it is a good feeling, because it's like reassurance, isn't it? It's like, and the person that you're talking about is I think it's Tim Radcliffe, yeah, and he was highly ranked in the country, and he's the actual one that gave me the name Mr. Intense,
So that's what I was going to ask. Where did that? So he gave it to you? Why? So is that because of the way you fight?
Yeah, because of the way I fight, he gave me the name and I've run with it, It's worked. So all credits to Tim, and that's it, man.
No worries, no. So Mr. Intense, I think it fits you quite well, to be fair, because as I was watching your fights, I was thinking, how long's this one going to go? How long's this one to go? As I said, you've rarely seen a third round, let alone a second round, let alone a second minute.
Yeah, no, we'll be getting there. We'll get there. I'm sure as I progress in the career, obviously there's going to be people that are going to bring me a bit further. Maybe.
Hey, there's no issues in finishing the fight in the first round all the time.
That's it. You know, and I like bringing that style. You know, people don't pay to see a boring fight. You know, win, lose, draw. For me, it's all learning. Yeah, I want to give people what they pay their money for. I'm here to entertain. As a fighter, we're entertainers as well. Do you know, it is our career, but we're also there to entertain. And yeah, like I said, I always want to bring it and just nothing but me. And when everyone knows that I'm fighting, they know that I'm coming out to bring it. Nothing less.
And that's what everyone's doing. As soon as they see your name read out on Fusion, now you're becoming a big name now. You're following in the footsteps of, I say following footsteps, you're just as good as a good friend of mine, Tom Green, who fights in, he's the featherweight champion at the moment. He went to Bellator, and it says, you're definitely following the sort of path he did at the moment. You're going in, you're dominating the scene. So it'd really be good to see what goes on next. So what weight class are you fighting at this next fight? Because your first pro fight was a catchweight, yeah?
The first pro fight, yeah, it was a catchweight. It was at 68 actually. This fight is also a catchweight. I'm going to be doing 75, but I usually fight at 70. So I usually fight lightweight and can fluctuate between feather and light as well. But I think I'm going to stick to 70.
Because featherweight for you, you'll say you're quite a big guy. Do you know what I mean? So it must be hard.
It's a bit hard, yeah. It is a bit hard, and but I feel good at 70. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to stick to lightweight, I think.
How are you feeling about 75 though at the moment? You don't have to cut any weight. So.
Yeah, because I've had such a long time out, I didn't want to just rush and do a drastic weight cut. Do you know what I mean? It might compromise my form. I might be weak on the day. So catch weight was reasonable just to that because I've had a year out, just a stepping stone back into it. So that was right. And then yeah, my next fight I'll be back at 70.
And that's where you want to stay, lightweight. That's where you want to stay.
I think I'll stay at lightweight. Yeah, just take out some of these lightweight guys. Yeah, that's it.
No, definitely. There's definitely some good guys in there to be taken out as well. I'm sure you're not too. Is your eyes on the prize then in this one? Yeah, you want that fusion title before you think about what you're doing next, sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. That definitely one of my objectives. You know, become like a professional champion, as well as an amateur champion. So yeah, I think I'll get this fight out of the way, maybe another one, and then ask Mark and Rick, for that shot.
I said Mark and Ricardo, especially I haven't spoken to Ricardo too much, but Mark has a lot of good things to say about you. Yeah. When I was chatting to some of his guys in his gym, he's like, why don't you give Jarvis Grey a call? Yeah. And obviously I've heard your name on the Fusion cards before, watched the videos, I was like 100%. So your name's about these gyms. People know who you are, man.
That's nice, man. That's a nice feeling to know. Mark's a good guy, they've looked after me on Fusion, him and Rick. They're very professional, well run, like I've nothing bad to say about them at all, and I'm real. If I've got something to say about someone, I'll just say it. I'm not owed anyone, I don't owe no one nothing. But Mark and Rick, good guys, man. They're solid guys, good guys. Yeah.
No, quality, and I said it's a lot. I hear that a lot as well. Yeah. And like another thing I want to mention, because people can't see it, is obviously you're in training this gym here, myself looking around. Very family orientated, like most gyms I go to be fair. And the minute I walked in, I was offered teas and coffees. That could have been anyone, for all they know. So, do you know what I mean? So, do you find that work training here is just top notch? Yeah,
that helps, man. As long as you're in a good environment. If you're in a bad environment, how are you gonna flourish? Everyone down here is what's the word I'm looking for? Everyone is interested in everybody's progress. The main boss, John Jarvis, he's not just like gonna just blank you or give you that perception just because he's the boss. He'll sit you down, talk to you even about personal things. Like how's life going? It's not always just about training and that. I love it here, man. They're proper family orientated down here. Lots of good guys down here. Paolo, Alan, Ruth, John Jarvis. Very welcoming gym. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to let everyone know, he's wearing a t-shirt for Lumpini Gym. Check them out. Obviously, they've got a lot of good fighters coming through. Actually, Jarvis coming through as well. Good trainers, and well, if you're going to compete down here the way this man is right now, I think we'll all be happy, won't we, Jarvis? 100%. Yeah. Quick question. So, what was your biggest inspiration? It is a bit of a cliche question, okay? But what was your biggest inspiration, in this sport to keep driving, keep going?
My kids.
Yeah.
Family, yeah. They're my biggest inspiration because they look up to me as that guy, I'm their dad that is so strong, and
Superman.
Yeah, wins fights and my dad's a professional fighter. Come look on YouTube. This is my dad. Yeah, they're my biggest drive. I can't fail them. Do you know? That's my biggest drive. Yeah.
My dad can beat up your dad sort of conversation.
That sort of conversation. Yeah. But they won't tell me that they said that though, because I told them that's the wrong thing. I'm quite strict on them. Yeah.
How old are they?
The oldest one is 10. The middle one is 8, and then the youngest one is 3.
Is this something, I know no one wants to see their kids, everyone said I don't want to see them fight, but as you and me both know, people see cage fighting as a whole, the wrong aspect of thing. They see it as a brutal thing. As you know, it's the most controlled sport probably we have, you know. Is that something your kids already interested in doing, that sort of thing?
Not that I forced them into it, but they've been grappling now with Ricardo for about, I think maybe about 4 years now, and they're doing very well. You know what? They know more things than me. If I'm honest, you know, they'll outshine me. And Rick, he keeps on saying that, you know, like give them a couple more years, Jarvis, they'll be better than you. But they love doing the contact sports as well. Yeah. And it's not because I don't force them. I say, do you lot want to do football? Do you want to do? I try and push them into other things so that it's not the pressure just because I'm doing it. But they love it.
Well, it's nice to hear, you know, most kids nowadays are sat in front of an iPad or just their PlayStation all day, Fortnite or that sort of.
They still do that. They still play Fortnite a lot, but yeah, they love the grappling and that. Yeah, they grapple 3-4 times a week.
So so you might be sitting on the sofa and one of the little ones is jumping on your back and choking you out.
Very soon. Very soon.
Where's my pocket money?
Yeah, Dad. What do you mean bedtime? It's not. You know what I mean?
How does, if that might be asking, how does the other half obviously think about these? Are they very supportive of you? The whole family? Are they whole family supportive of you? What you do?
Yeah. My mum was a bit iffy, like any other mums. You know what I mean? I don't want you getting hit in your head. It takes one hit. You know, you do get them kind of negatives, but she's kind of turned around to it, you know, like over the years, and she's very much more supportive now. She still hasn't been to none of my fights, because she can't bear to see it. She said,
well, how would you do your mum like this in the front row? Like,
I know. I don't want the pressure on my mum there, anyways. To be honest, you know, because it's just extra emotional, and it probably might make me fight wrong. I might be too emotional. Do you know what I mean? So my mum, she's very supportive, and the rest of the family and that, the missus and that, yeah.
Have the kids, obviously now they're a bit older, one of them's a bit older, have they ever come to watch a fight with you before?
Yeah, they've come to a few fusions, yeah, they've come down.
That must be great for them as well, seeing there, because most dads, you know, take their kids to football, which is great, obviously, you know, and see a team, but you're taking them to a fight where you're the professional.
That's it.
You know, it must make you, I bet they must be proud kids of you, eh?
Nah, they were very proud, especially when I won the amateur belt. I made them come in the cage,
Yeah, I saw.
took pictures and all of that.
And you had Jimmy present you the belt as well.
Yeah, Jimmy Manua, you know, big thing to be presented the belt by him and that. And they loved it. They love it. They look forward to all my fights now, and they think it's their right to come to every fight now. Just because they've come to a few now, they say like, yeah, when's the next? So they'll definitely be at all the fights. They'll be at all my fights now.
Well, it's nice they got a vested interest in it as well, you know, and they can see you doing well. That's only going to encourage them to do more, especially you said about your background, you know, like in the past it might have not been the best for you. Yeah. So I'm guessing you're stopping that from happening to your own little ones.
100%, you know, 100%. I don't want them going down that sort of path. Education is very important, so I always drum that in their head. I'm just very disciplined with them, you know.
Yeah, so I've grew up in an area like Thornton Heath area, Croydon, so I know exactly what some areas can be like, how easily influenced young kids can be nowadays. Myself, I got into judo very young and played rugby and stuff like that, you know, and I think it's really important what you're doing, and it's actually very inspirational for everyone out there listening to this, you know, say, look, it's not going to get your kid, isn't going to get his head caved in, you know, it's controlled, it's discipline, you know.
Yeah, because with that as well, they don't need to go to school and act like they're the hardest. They already know what they're capable of. It actually humbles them. Do you know what I mean? Because if they get found out doing their art on somebody for no reason, they're in big trouble. Do you know what I mean? They're in big trouble, not only by me but by Ricardo as well. So the discipline don't just start with me; it's with the coach as well, you know, and they will get disciplined by him.
I think I used to listen to my sensei more than my parents, to be fair. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's more embarrassing for them to get told off by Ricardo than me. So sometimes if they've done a little naughty thing, I'll tell Rick, I'll be like, just tell him off, Rick. Just tell him off for me, please. Yeah, and then
Ricardo's your backup, yeah? So Ricardo, if you ever need to babysit or someone to discipline him with, If he asks you, right? So just come to the end now. Your opponent coming up. Anything you want to say? I know you don't talk smack about. I know that's not your thing. Okay, but anything you want to say to your opponent coming up in case he's watching?
Mate, just drink plenty of water. You know, drink plenty of water. Have a good early night the night before. That's it, really, mate. Because you know what I'm coming to do. That's it. Yeah.
And as I said, if I was watching your previous fights, fair play for him to even getting in there, Jarvis, to be honest with you. And also, I'd like to give you the opportunity to shout out any gym partner, any gyms, any sponsors at all that you want to give a shout out. Do it now, man.
Yeah, I want to just show my utmost respect to everybody down Crawley Martial Arts. Yep. Also, everybody down at Nova Forza. You know, there's too many names to mention. I want to shout out to my sponsors as well, Colours For You, PVC Charles Associates, they're an accountancy business. Also, I sponsor myself, so I've got my kennels business, Bully's Block Kennels, so shout out to all my kennels partners. And that's it really, yeah, just all the family and friends that always show me continuous support throughout the years, you know. You know who you are, and I always show appreciation, so everybody's knows who they are. Yeah, I always.
And you definitely have a good support following. Every time I've been there, when you come out, it's just deafening, to be fair. So you must put 100 people in there with you, don't you? At least
yeah.
It feels like it.
Yeah, it varies, but let's say minimum 60 sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah, minimum. Yeah.
Feels like a lot more. It's definitely you come out, and I said you're a name known at Fusion now. You're an exciting fighter to watch, as you said. People you want to entertain people. Look at these big organisations now. You have people who lose 4 in a row, but because they go to fight, they don't get cut.
Yeah.
And is that what you base yourself on, sort of thing?
That's it.
Apart from the losing 4 fights bit.
Exactly. We don't really want to go down that road, but if it's 4 big fights and scraps and with both of our faces teared off, then what's more entertaining than that? Do you know what I mean? That's what people pay their money for, and that's what I'm here for anyways. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
And that's how you're going to get your name known, if more than it already is already, because you're sitting there thinking no one knows who I am, but they do. Other gyms are talking about you, and and on Fusion you are one of the names now everyone looks out for. Think that's going to be like the Diego Sanchez fight. You know what I mean? The scrap is going to be, he's going to go in there, he's going to have it, sort of thing. You know. So Jarvis Grey. He'll be fighting next June 15th at Fusion Fighting 30, taking on a tough opponent. I'm sure it probably won't last longer than 1 minute again. I'll predict that probably about first round knockout again. We might see a bit more of the ground game this time from Jarvis. So Jarvis said, I really appreciate you coming in. Really appreciate you giving me the time today, and I'm sure these lot out here can't wait to see you fight at Fusion.
Nah, thank you guys as well. And thank yourself for coming down today.
Oh, one thing, Jarvis, sorry mate to interrupt you. Where can people follow you? Like, follow your career? Instagram, places like that, get tickets for Fusion?
Yeah, obviously I'm Jarvis Grey on Facebook, just Jarvis and Grey spelt with an EY. And then on Instagram it's Mr_intense_MMA. That's it, yeah.
And tickets, if they need tickets for Fusion, can I get in touch with you?
Yeah, just drop me a DM, you know, and we'll arrange to meet up somewhere, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
There you have it. So look forward to seeing Jarvis Grey next month. It's going to be fireworks, as it always is. That's me signing out. Thank you very much.